In a reality show, 8 contestants unite to maximize their earnings, but conflict soon arises when one suddenly stops cooperating. Days ago, Jin-soo met with a trusted friend who promised to make him a multi-billionaire if he invested everything in him. Excited to get rich, the man followed the advice, securing a bank loan and borrowing from loan sharks. However, soon after investing, his friend vanished, running away with all his money. With a massive debt of 900 million, Jin-soo did his best to earn money. He took on a part-time job at a convenience store, earning 78,000 won daily, but he knew it wasn't sufficient. He also searched for high-paying jobs and soon landed one as a high-rise window cleaner, earning 320,000 won daily. However, he realized that cleaning all the windows in Seoul would not be enough to pay off his debt. In the present, with debt collectors still pursuing him, Jin-soo sees no way out but to end his own life. However, just as he was about to jump from the bridge, he suddenly received a notification on his phone. Shockingly, an unknown sender deposited 6 million won into his account, including an instruction for him to get inside the limousine. When the vehicle arrives, the indebted man boards and discovers a drink, only to realize it's fake. Soon, the limousine drops him off at a theater. Inside, Jin-soo discovers some cash, a letter, and numbered cards on the table on stage. He then opens the letter and learns about the 8 show. The letter explains that the reality game show doesn't require any skills or previous knowledge. All it asks is the time players are willing to throw away. It also states that participants will be provided with all necessary food and accommodations, and the available prize money will accumulate as time passes. When the allotted time is over, the show will automatically end. However, if any participant expires during the process, the show will immediately end, regardless of the remaining time. Jin-soo also learns that if he chooses not to participate, he can take the 20 million won taxi fare from the table and leave. If he wishes to join the game, he must take one of the numbered cards and enter through the drapes. After reading, the indebted man becomes excited, thinking it's easy money since he'll be paid for his time. However, he ends up taking the 20 million instead. But as he exits the place, he suddenly receives money from the convenience store owner, informing him that his salary is low for the week due to the business not doing well. At that moment, Jin-soo realizes he'll still face his 900 million debt if he leaves the theater. He then turns back and decides to participate in the game. After choosing number 3, he steps into the drapes. Entering the studio, he sees a pool in the middle and a timer on the wall, which shows 24 hours. Suddenly, the door closes behind him, locking him inside. Behind him, he sees a staircase connecting 8 floors, making him realize that he's assigned on the 3rd floor. Using his keycard, Jin-soo enters his room. Then, he discovers installed cameras and a fake window. Suddenly, the chute on the wall opens, revealing a rulebook and his uniform. As Jin-soo reads the rules, he learns that players must surrender their belongings and change into the provided garments. In addition, he discovers that the scoreboard on top of the chute keeps track of his accumulated prize money. Food and shelter will be provided for free, and there's an intercom available in case he needs to purchase something he needs. However, the items cost 100 times more, and their purchases will be deducted from the individual prize money. If players want to use items outside their rooms, they must buy them from the square, the studio chute. There's also a curfew, and participants must be locked inside their rooms from midnight until 8 a.m. Blocking cameras is prohibited, and violations will lead to deductions from the person's prize money. When Jin-soo learns the show starts precisely at midnight, he quickly changes into his uniform as the projected countdown appears. After putting on his clothes, he discovers that the pockets are just printed out. He's shocked when his scoreboard suddenly shows 30,000 won, which doubles after a minute. Jin-soo calculates and realizes his daily wage is 43,200,000 just for being inside the room. This makes him happy, and he thinks he made a good decision by joining the game. Though unsure when it'll end, he believes he needs to stay a few weeks to finally pay his debt. Suddenly, he feels the need to relieve himself. He assumes that the bathroom's outside, but then he remembers he should stay inside his room until 8 a.m. Violating this rule will result in his prize money being halved. When he tries to use the intercom, no one answers on the other line. After reviewing the rules again, he realizes he can use his prize money to buy necessities. Feeling cold, Jin-soo tries to use the intercom. When he requests a blanket and hand warmer, the screen shows that it has already cost 1,100,000 won. As a strategy, Jinsu purchases cheap items like cardboard, newspapers, and a bottle to use as his toilet so that he doesn't spend too much of his earnings. The next morning, he wakes up and realizes that he earned a lot of money even while sleeping. Suddenly, he's distracted when he hears someone calling from the outside. Jinsu, known as 3F, leaves his room and realizes other players are in the studio. He first meets the jolly 4F, who tells him that the swimming pool and sunlight are fake. Next, the motherly 5F invites him to look at the main timer, noting that their Rs have increased. On the other hand, the analytical 7F believes there are still many rules they don't know. The stylish 8F greets them, followed by the somewhat aggressive 6F. They also meet the standoffish 2F and then 1F, who has mobility issues. When 1F attempts to say his name, 2F interrupts, suggesting they stick to addressing each other by their floor numbers instead. As they explore the studio, the players realize that everything else is fake and there are no bathrooms. 1F shares that he figured they'd stay for a day, so he bought waste bags to use as a personal toilet and left them in his room. Hearing this, 7F suggests they buy something together in the square, proposing a vote. However, the impulsive 6F goes to the intercom to order some cigs. Though their purchases are deducted from the main scoreboard, 4F discovers that it doesn't affect their personal prize money. Upon learning this, 7F initiates a meeting to decide on the items they should buy as a team. After the discussion, they agree to purchase 8 plastic buckets, 8 rolls of toilet paper, 4 packs of sanitary pads, and 4 boxes of cigs. 3F quickly grabs his bucket and uses it in his room for personal business. Later, everyone gathers to discuss food. 1F is confused about why the promised free food hasn't arrived yet, but 8F shares that she received 12 meal kits and 12 water bottles in her room's chute. When the stylish player admits that she used the water during her bath time, 4F is shocked. 3F then interjects, suggesting that the meal kits are possibly meant to be shared among everyone. 6F laughs, but 5F steps in to ease the tension. The compassionate participant defends 8F, stating she must have thought everyone was receiving food. Despite this, 2F angrily confronts 8F, accusing her of keeping everything to herself. However, 8F explains she only eats 1 meal daily to stay slim. The stylish player adds that though she wants to share the food, she doesn't know how because items inside rooms can't be taken outside. Hearing this, 7F chimes in, realizing that the showrunners want them to use the chutes for food distribution. However, 2F wonders why there are 12 meal kits and water bottles if there are only 8 of them. Regardless, 7F asks 8F to test their theory on whether her chute can send meals to the other floors. He proposes that the rest of the players accompany her to see her room, to which she agrees. However, when the 7 participants enter 8F's room, they're shocked to discover that she has the largest one. When 3F notices her scoreboard, he quickly realizes she earns more than him. Before the game started, 8F arrived in the theater wearing a beautiful white dress. When she saw the cards on the table, she did eeny meeny miny mo, causing her to select the number 8. When the excited woman entered the studio, she immediately jumped into the swimming pool in the middle, but she only hurt herself because it was fake. Entering her room, she removed her clothes and had a quick cig break. And before the game officially started, she burned her white dress inside the chute as it closed. Upon discovering she was earning $340,000 a minute, she spent her accumulated prize money for a day on luxurious items like a mattress and toilet. Shortly after, the chute opened up with meal kits and water bottles, but she only took a portion of each to create a meal for herself. The next morning, she purchased a bathtub and used all the water bottles as her bath water. Seeing her co-players' reactions, 8F laughs, causing 4F to feel offended. When each participant discloses their wage per minute, they discover that they have differing salaries based on their floor levels. It turns out that 1F earns 10,000 won per minute, 2F makes 20,000, 3F earns 30,000, 4F makes 50,000, 5F earns 80,000, 6F makes 130,000, and 7F earns 210,000. Doing the math, 7F concludes that their wages are calculated by adding 2 wages together, and their sum is the next in the sequence. For instance, 1F and 2F combined wages equal 3Fs. After this discovery, the players check each one's rooms, noticing that they also get smaller in size as the floor decreases. When they assemble in the main area, 4F regrets not choosing the number 8, but 5F advises her that it's no use to wallow in regret since they had no idea when they chose the numbers. After analyzing everything, 7F proposes that they work together so they can extend their stay and go home with a maximum profit. As for the meal distribution, 7F implements a fair system wherein everyone will receive one meal kit per day, ensuring that the extra 4 won't be assigned to anyone. But in the event that someone feels hungry, everyone has an equal claim to the leftovers. Following this, the players always eat inside 1F's room. During their sig break, 7F tells 3F that he now has a rough idea of what the showrunners want from them. Suddenly, their discussions interrupted when 2F discovers that 8F used up a lot of their time to buy new clothes in the square. 2F rudely calls her out for not using her individual prize money, but 8F explains it would be pointless to buy in her room and she can't take it outside for them to see. As the rest worries that they only have 15 minutes left, the unbothered 8F keeps giggling, revealing that she knows how to extend it by using the stairs. When 7F asks her to prove her theory, 8F says that she'll only do so if 2F says sorry to her first. When 2F doesn't want to do this, 6F intervenes and urges her to apologize for everyone's benefit. When 2F still doesn't say sorry, a desperate 1F initiates climbing the stairs, followed by everyone. Despite their efforts, their time goes down, causing them to feel bad. Shockingly, seconds later, the timer suddenly restarts to 24 hours. Seeing this, everyone rejoices, and 8F points out that she was right about her theory all along. During a sig break, 7F shares his thoughts with 3F that the showrunners must want them to fight each other. The next morning, the players gather in the main area. They treat climbing the stairs as their job to increase their time, and they all have their lunch breaks inside 1F's room. After a day's work, their time increases to 24 hours. However, when the players return to their rooms that night, they're all sore and exhausted. During the lunch break the next day, 4F complains about eating only one meal a day despite the exhausting task. As a solution, 6F suggests dividing the work into 2 teams. 7F agrees with the idea, emphasizing that it allows each person to run every other day. That way, the extra 4 meals will be given to the team who ran that day, enabling each team to eat 2 meals during their run. However, during the team assignment, 2F wants to be on the odd number team instead. 1F then agrees to switch places with her. When the plan is implemented, it's a success at first because each team has a chance to eat more. However, during one run, 1F falls because of his mobility issues. 6F approaches his resting teammate, but only to crunch his hands because he's slowing him down. Witnessing this, 2F offers to be 1F's substitute. As a result, 2F feels so exhausted. Nevertheless, she insists on continuing. The day after, the resting team notices that 1F is still struggling to climb the stairs. This time, 3F volunteers to be his substitute. As a result, he feels exhausted the next day when it's his team's turn to run. Soon, 4F complains, stating that 1F must not eat because 3F ran for him. When 1F insists on giving his meal to 3F, 2F intervenes, saying they didn't run for him just to get an extra dinner. That night, the starving 3F feels remorseful for sacrificing and blames the scammer who took his money for putting him in such a desperate position. The next morning, 3F is surprised to see that his chute is filled with waste bags. It turns out that 1F volunteers to collect all the waste since he can't contribute much to running. However, while eating in 1F's room later, 3F can't handle the foul smell that he had to leave the room. He then approaches 7F, who's been analyzing the time increase since they started climbing the stairs. Suddenly, they notice that an extra 10 minutes have been added even when no one is on the stairs. Soon, the players all notice that their efforts are not increasing the time anymore. Seeing this, 8F suddenly abandons her team, excusing herself to rest because she feels bored. 2F then interrupts her, advising that she should work the hardest because she earns the most. In response, 8F argues that the lower earners should be the ones working the hardest because that's their role. She explains that the low earners don't use their personal money, so they dip into their shared time to buy things. 4F intervenes, proposing they stop arguing and just continue climbing the stairs to add more time. Soon, the players notice that they don't earn time as much as before. Because of this, 7F feels that something is wrong with their theory. The next day, 5F announces they only have 31 minutes left on the timer. In panic, everyone starts climbing the stairs again, but 4F suddenly falls in the middle of the exercise. Fortunately, 5F, a former nurse, intervenes, explaining that 4F is having a seizure and needs medication. When 2F is about to place an order from Square, 6F stops her, pointing out that they can't afford it with their limited time. Despite this, she walks toward the intercom, but he continues to stop her, leading to a brawl. 3F steps in and runs to the intercom, but 6F punches him in the face. 7F, 2F, and even 1F work together to restrain 6F so that 3F can freely order the medicine. As she watches the brawl, 8F laughs, pointing pointing at the timer, which now shows 40 hours. Seeing the increase, 7F realizes that it wasn't climbing the stairs that earned them time, but how they entertained their spectators. Suddenly, the chute opens, revealing the epilepsy medication they asked for. Upon arriving at the theater days ago, 7F meticulously read the note and selected the number 7. Stepping into the drapes and exploring the studio, he settled into his room where he discovered that he was earning 210,000 won every minute. His initial purchase was a ballpoint pen for 100,000 won, followed by a table and notebook later on. He then took notes about his observations, particularly the installed cameras inside the room, wondering if they were live. 7F then elaborates his theory to the other players, suggesting that they must have been earning time previously by engaging in entertaining activities for the audience. However, when nothing new is happening, the viewers get bored, resulting in no additional time being granted. Upon hearing this, 6F speculates that their time might have increased due to 4F's seizure and 3F's nosebleed, which likely amused the audience. A concerned 5F joins the conversation, wondering if it means that they can only earn more time when they hurt each other. But 7F thinks that it's more about entertaining the audience, inciting everyone to think of something amusing to do. The next morning, 3F attempts an ASMR mukbang show in his room to increase their time, only to realize that his efforts don't change anything. Suddenly, 7F interrupts him, inviting him for an after-dinner smoke in his room. There, 3F sees his fellow players' notes on the wall. During the conversation, 7F praises 3F for standing out among the others and substituting for 1F when he couldn't climb the stairs. In turn, 3F praises 7F for not delivering his waste to 1F and keeping it inside the room instead. Later, 7F asks for 3F's help in proposing a new strategy to the other players to entertain their viewers, realizing they get rewarded with time. The more engaged their audience, the more money they make. However, he notes that there should be some variety so that their spectators remain hooked. During the meeting, the other players suggest ideas like pro wrestling and a dating game. But in the end, they all agree to do a talent show because it's simpler at the moment. 7F takes the lead, showcasing his talent by playing a recorder through his nose, which results in them gaining an additional 20 hours of their time. Following the success, 7F suggests discussing when they want the game to end so they know how much time they need to earn. 5F proposes that 1F should make the call since he earns the least. When 2F asks him how much he wants to earn, 1F boldly states that he wants 1 billion won. 7F and 5F calculate the time needed to reach that amount, which is around 75 days. Technically, it benefits everyone because despite the differing amounts, all will go home with more than 1 billion. In preparation for the next day's talent show, the other players line up at the intercom to buy their props. However, 3F worries because he knows he doesn't have a talent. The following morning, the players showcase their talents individually. 5F starts with her singing, which earns them 10 hours. 6F shows off his strength, granting them 15 hours. When it's 2F's turn, she showcases her combat skills, adding 17 hours to their time. As for 4F's yodel performance, it only gets them 1 hour and 50 minutes. Disappointed by the low reward, she goes down the slide, yet it only earns them 5 minutes. In 3F's performance, he approaches the fake pool and executes an awkward dance routine, resulting in an 18-minute increase. This places him as the lowest earner among the group. Following that, 1F transforms into a clown and showcases his talent for miming, impressively earning them 30 hours. For the final act, 8F demonstrates her skills in bed with 6F in her room. Surprisingly, her performance garners them 69 hours, establishing her as the highest earner among them. That night, 3F has a weird dream of 8F alluring him and 6F inviting him to engage in a physical moment. During the meeting the next day, 7F announces that they earned a total of 5 days from their talent show. Realizing they're earning significantly now, 1F questions if he still needs to continue holding the waste bags. 5F agrees that it shouldn't be his duty anymore. However, 4F worries about whether they should keep their waste inside their rooms again. 2F suggests that 8F should take on the responsibility because she has the most space. When 8F refuses, 2F proposes that they use her room as a toilet instead so they don't need to keep their waste. 6F then suggests taking a vote on which floor should serve as everyone's bathroom. Though most agree, 3F worries that he might be chosen because he was the lowest earner during the talent show. Before the voting takes place, 4F tries to persuade 5F, 3F, and 7F to vote for 8F, arguing that the task will bother her less and she won't be disturbed by the chute noises anymore. She justifies that since 8F is earning more than them, she should have more responsibilities. Suddenly, they're interrupted when 6F requests to speak with 7F privately. 6F shares his plan to vote for 3F because of his subpar talent. 7F agrees agrees despite promising 3F and 5F that he'll vote for 8F. The next day, the players gather to cast their votes in an amusing manner. They write their choices on paper, then slide down before depositing their votes in a paper box. When 7F tallies the vote, it's revealed that both 3F and 8F have received 3 votes each. As they await the last vote, 6F glances at 2F, revealing that he also persuaded her to vote for 3F earlier. 7F then reads the last vote, which turns out to be for 8F, assigning her room as everyone's bathroom. 6F can't believe the results, so he takes the papers from 7F to double check. Initially, 8F is unfazed by the decision. She even instructs everyone to applaud her for winning. Surprisingly, they earn a full day just for their voting event, making them realize that they entertained their viewers. Later, 3F approaches 7F, curious about who gave him his third vote. He was convinced that 6F and 8F were 2 of the voters and suspects that 4F might have been the third, unaware that it was actually 7F who voted for him. However, 7F only advises him to stop speculating. Meanwhile, 1F gives 2F a makeshift hat as a token of gratitude for asking him about his vote. Before the voting began, 2F took his opinion into account because he had suffered the most due to all the waste. 1F then proposed that 8F should receive the vote because she has the largest room. Later, when 4F asks for 8F's key to use the room as the bathroom, 8F adamantly refuses. Despite 5F's reminder that she won the earlier vote and needs to cooperate for the group's benefit, 8F simply walks away and locks herself in her room. While 1F believes she's just adjusting, 7F has a bad feeling about it. The following day, everyone is shocked to find that 8F delivered empty meal kits and water bottles, indicating her unwillingness to compromise and her frustration with the group's decision.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.